All right, picture this. You're, you know the scene. It's a Tuesday night,
Oh, I know this scene. I can feel it already.
right? You're standing in a room. It's got that generic beige carpet.
Holding a plastic cup of something you don't really want to be drinking.
Exactly. Lukewarm punch, just have something to do with your hands. You're at some networking event, or maybe you're the plus one at a dinner party.
And you know nobody. You're just kind of hovering.
You're hovering, you're feeling that, that low-level hum of social anxiety.
Hmm.
And then it happens.
The approach. Someone's coming over.
Someone walks up to you, they seem nice, they have a nice smile, and they decide they're going to bridge the gap. And they ask the question.
The universal champion of small talk.
It is. So what do you do for fun?
And that's the moment of truth, isn't it? For a native speaker, it's nothing. It's barely a blip.
No, it's just air.
Yeah, you just say, oh, I've been, getting really into this new sci-fi show, or I'm trying to train for a 5K and I hate my life. It flows.
It's effortless. But, and this is why we're here, this is the whole point of this deep dive. If you're learning English, the physics in that room just completely change.
Everything freezes.
You freeze, your brain stops looking for the truth, for what you actually do, and it starts scanning for survival. It's looking for the simplest, safest grammatical sentence it can find. And what comes out?
The robot answer.
The robot answer. You look this perfectly friendly human in the eye, and you deliver a line that sounds like it was generated by an old computer.
My hobby is playing football.
Or the other classic, I like music.
I like music, and you can just feel the air go out of the conversation.
It's like a balloon deflating in slow motion. The other person just nods and says, oh, cool. And then immediately their eyes start darting around the room.
They're looking for the exit or a refill on that terrible punch. It's so painful.
It's painful. But look, we're not here today just to relive our cringiest moments. We're here to completely dismantle this problem.
Right. We're doing a deep dive into some really fascinating source material that's built around a conversation model, specifically this dialogue between two speakers, Emma and Liam, that just decodes this whole issue.
And this isn't about giving you a list of hobbies. You can find that on the internet. This is about conversational psychology. We are going to shift your mindset from answering a question to something else entirely.
To sharing a piece of yourself. That's the real goal.
Exactly. That's the mission. We're going to take you from what we're calling the basic brick stage.
That's the I like music answer. The wall.
To the natural star stage. By the end of this, you won't just be answering the question. You'll be opening a door. You'll be saying things like, I'm really into hip-hop these days because it gives me so much energy on my morning commute.
Which is a completely different universe of communication.
It's the difference between a transaction
and a connection. That's what it all comes down to.
So let's get into it. The whole philosophy of our source material, the foundation, is built around this one mental model. They call it the tennis analogy.
This is the key. If you don't get this part, none of the vocabulary we talk about later is going to matter.
So what is it?
Okay, think of a conversation like a game of tennis. When someone asks you, so what do you do for fun? They've just served the ball to you.
Right. The ball's in play. It's on your side of the court.
Exactly. Now, if you give that one-word answer, that flat, I like movies, what you've done is you've caught the tennis ball and just put it in your pocket.
The game is over.
The rally is dead. And now that poor person who was trying to play with you, they have to go all the way back to the baseline, pull another ball out of their pocket, and serve all over again.
And it becomes exhausting for them. They have to ask another question. What kind of movies?
It becomes an interview. It's work. But if you give a detailed answer, if you add some color or an example, you're hitting the ball back over the net.
You're keeping the rally going. You're inviting them to play.
And that's the goal. That's fluency. It's not about perfect grammar. It's about keeping that rally alive.
So basically, today is tennis lessons for your mouth.
You could say that, yeah. We want to teach you how to have a really good, long rally.
Okay, so let's get into the first big hurdle. The source material points to this one specific habit that just traps almost every single learner at that intermediate level. I call it the I like trap.
Oh, it's such a trap. It's the safety blanket of language learning, isn't it?
It is. I like pizza. I like dogs. Subject, verb, object.
And it's so dangerous because it's grammatically correct.
That's the problem.
Yeah, you can't be marked wrong for it on a test. Your teacher gives you a nice little check mark. But in a real conversation, it is dead on arrival.
So why, if it's correct, why does it feel so flat? Why does it sound wrong to a native ear?
Because like is just a neutral functional verb. It's basically a binary choice. Thumbs up, thumbs down. It has no texture. It doesn't tell me how you feel about it or the degree of that feeling.
It's just data.
It's just data. And in the source interaction, Emma and Liam, they highlight this kind of hierarchy of enthusiasm. There are levels to this.
Right. They called this the mini explanation. So let's break down the tiers. What's at the very bottom?
So basement level, you've got your standard, I like, it's functional, it gets the job done, but, barely.
It's the bare minimum.
It is. So one step up from that, you have I enjoy.
I enjoy. Okay, that already feels a little different. It sounds, I don't know, a bit classier, a little heavier.
It implies an experience. That's the key difference. You don't just like that something exists. You actually get pleasure from the process of doing it.
I see.
So I enjoy cooking suggests you like the chopping, the smells, the process. I like cooking could just mean you prefer it to ordering takeout every night. Enjoy is about the active state of pleasure.
That's a great distinction. So it puts the focus on the activity itself, not just your opinion of it. Okay, so what's at the top of this pyramid?
The game changer. I really enjoy.
The intensifier. Just one little word.
It seems so simple, just adding, really, but I can't overstate how important this is in English. Native speakers, especially North America and the UK, we use hyperbole constantly in social settings.
We don't really do subtle and small talk, do we?
We really don't. If we like something, we really like it. If something is good, it's amazing. So when a learner just says, I like music, to our ears, that almost sounds like, I tolerate music's existence.
It sounds lukewarm. It sounds like you're not interested.
Exactly. It doesn't invite any follow-up, but I really enjoy signals genuine passion. It tells the listener, hey, this thing actually matters to me. Ask me more about it.
Okay, but the source material gives us some even better tools. These are what I'm calling the upgrade kit. These are the phrases that make you sound less like a textbook and more like a real person.
Yes. These are the ones that are just flowing in modern, casual English. Let's start with the big one I'm really into.
I love this one. It's so cool.
It has a very specific vibe, doesn't it? It's casual. It's current. You wouldn't really say, I am really into our quarterly financial reports in a serious board meeting.
You could, but you would definitely be the weird one in the office.
For sure. But for hobbies, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It implies that this is your current obsession. I'm really into photography right now. I'm really into these old sci-fi novels.
It suggests you're not just doing it, but you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
You're in the world of that hobby. It implies immersion.
Exactly. You are into it. So what about the next one? I'm a big fan of.
Okay, that one feels a little different. It feels more, I don't know, dedicated.
I'd say it implies appreciation, usually for something you consume passively, like music, movies, sports teams. You're not just a casual listener or watcher. You're a fan.
Right. It suggests you follow it. I'm a big fan of jazz. That tells me you probably know the artist. You might know the history, the different styles.
Yeah, you're not just hearing it on the radio in a coffee shop. You're actively seeking it out. It shows a level of knowledge and dedication.
Okay, and then there's the one that signals, like, a real lifestyle choice. I spend a lot of time.
That is the commitment signal. This is for the serious stuff. If you say, I spend a lot of time gardening, you're not just talking about a preference anymore.
No, you're talking about your life structure.
Yeah.
You're telling me how you actually organize your week, how you prioritize your free time.
It moves the conversation from just, what you like to who you are. It's about your lifestyle.
Now, there's a little contextual clue in the source that I think is absolute genius. It's just two tiny words, but they change everything. The phrase is, these days.
Ah, yes. I'm really into photography these days.
That is such a power move. Why? It seems so small. What is these days actually doing in that sentence?
It's adding a temporal layer. And that is so crucial for sounding like a dynamic person. If you just say, I like swimming, that's a static fact about you. It's true today. It was probably true 10 years ago. It's kind of boring.
It's a permanent state.
It is. But when you say, I'm really into swimming these days, that implies a few things. First, it implies that you go through phases.
It suggests that you change and evolve.
Exactly. It suggests that maybe last year you were really into running, and maybe next year you'll be into pottery, but right now, in this moment, it's swimming. It makes you sound current and active.
So it stops you from sounding like some static character in an English textbook who has liked swimming since 1995 and will like swimming forever.
Precisely. And what's more, it creates these amazing subtle hooks for the conversation to continue. It invites the other person to ask, oh, really? What were you into before? Or what got you started on swimming?
It gives them an easy ball to hit back.
It's the perfect setup for the next shot in the rally.
Okay, so we've upgraded the verb. We're not just liking things anymore. We are really into them these days. But now we hit the next big problem, which the source material calls the silence trap.
This is that key observation from Emma in the dialogue. She points out that learners will say that one good sentence, I like music, and then just stop.
Dead air. Crickets. Nothing.
And that silence puts an enormous amount of pressure back on the other person. It forces them to do all the work again. They have to become an interrogator.
Right, they have to start asking a list of questions.
Yeah.
Oh, what kind of music? Do you play an instrument? Do you go to concerts?
It becomes an interrogation, not a chat. And nobody wants to feel like they're interrogating someone at a party. It's awkward and it's tiring.
So how do we fix this? The source suggests something called the art of expansion.
The add-on technique. And it's all about one thing, specificity.
Drill down.
Drill down. That's the rule. Don't just give the category, give the subcategory. Think of it like a funnel.
Right. So movies is the top of the funnel.
Yeah.
It's way too broad. Everyone likes movies. Saying I like movies tells me nothing about you.
Nothing at all. Do you like horror? Do you like romantic comedies? Do you like black and white French films? I have no idea.
So the source gives this great comparison. The bad version is I like movies. The good version is I love watching movies, especially action and mystery films.
That word, especially, is your new best friend. It's like a spotlight. You're saying, here's the big category, but here, this is the specific part where I live. It instantly defines your taste.
It's a bridge word. It builds a bridge from the general to the specific. And the source lists a few of these. Especially is a big one. What else?
Mostly and mainly. They're very similar. They help define your primary habit within a broader hobby. I play video games, mostly RPGs.
Okay, that immediately saves the other person from making a wrong assumption. It saves them from asking, oh, like Candy Crush, when you really mean something like Final Fantasy.
Exactly. It clarifies your identity within that hobby. You're not just a gamer, you're an RPG gamer. It gives them so much more to work with.
But there's one phrase in the source that I think is just. It's next level. It's a little more advanced. Whenever I get the chance.
Ah, yes. I play football whenever I get the chance.
Okay, let's unpack that. We need to analyze the subtext there because it's saying so much more than just the words on the surface.
It absolutely is. It's basically a status signal that's cleverly disguised as a time modifier.
How so? Explain that.
Well, what does it really say? It says, I am a busy and important person. I have a job, I have responsibilities, I have a life, I am a functioning adult, so I can't just play football all day.
Right.
But I love it so much that the second a little window of free time opens up in my busy schedule, I jump on it.
It adds this incredible depth to your character. It makes you sound like a passionate adult, not just someone who sort of exists and does things.
Exactly. It implies this desire that's constantly battling against a busy schedule. And that is a very, very human condition, isn't it? We're all fighting for more free time.
It creates instant empathy.
It does. If you just say, I play football, I don't know your story, but I play football whenever I get the chance, tells me exactly where that hobby fits into the hierarchy of your life. It's a priority, but you're also responsible. It's very relatable.
Okay, so we're being specific. We're using these bridge words. We're showing our character. Now let's talk about the structure of the answer itself. We need to move from just making sentences to telling mini stories.
Yes. The source material introduces this brilliant narrative model using this one story from Liam about cooking.
The cooking story. It is a masterclass in short-form storytelling. It's so efficient, it's charming, it's relatable. It just checks every single box.
It does. It's only a few sentences long, but it has a complete story arc.
Okay, so let's break it down. Liam says, I really enjoy cooking. I started during lockdown when I was bored. At first, my food was terrible. I even burned pasta once. But now I cook almost every weekend, and it helps me relax.
It's just perfect, and it follows this really simple 4-part structure that you can apply to almost any hobby you have.
Okay, what's part one?
Part 1 is the origin. I started during lockdown when I was bored. This gives us context. It answers the when and the why then. It grounds the hobby in a specific time and place.
The origin stories are always interesting, right? We want to know how things began.
We do. Did you start running because you went through a breakup? Did you start learning guitar because you saw a cool concert? We want to know the backstory.
Okay, so origin is part one. Part two.
The struggle, or in this case, the humor. My food was terrible. I even burned pasta once.
I have to stop you there. We need to do a deep dive on this burned pasta moment because it's so important. Why on earth would you admit to failing at something so simple in a conversation where you're maybe trying to sound competent or impressive.
This is the burn pasta insight. And it's so counterintuitive for so many language learners. The instinct is to present a perfect image of yourself. I am an excellent cook. I am a master of chess.
You want to get the gold star.
Right. But here's the secret. Perfection is boring. Perfection is intimidating. It builds a wall between you and the other person. But vulnerability is a magnet.
So by admitting that he failed, that he burned pasta, he's actually making himself more relatable.
100%. It immediately moves the conversation from a transaction of facts, I'm a person who cooks, to a shared human moment. Because we have all failed at something new. We've all burned the metaphorical pasta in our lives.
It makes the listener smile. It breaks the ice. There's actually a psychological concept for this, isn't there? The pratfall effect.
Yes, exactly. It's the idea that when a competent person makes a small, relatable mistake, they actually become more likable, not less. If you seem too perfect, people can feel a bit of resentment. But if you show a little flaw, people trust you more.
And for a language learner, this is like a double win, because you're already in a vulnerable position just by speaking a second language.
You are. So by showing that you don't take yourself too seriously, that you can laugh at your own mistakes, you're signaling confidence. Only truly confident people can joke about their failures. It's a very attractive quality.
I love that. Okay, so we have origin, then the struggle. What's part 3 of Liam's story?
Part 3 is the current status. Now I cook almost every weekend. This shows growth. It establishes the current habit. You went from the struggle, from the burned pasta, to competence. It resolves the tension.
It completes the arc. And finally, part 4.
The benefit. It helps me relax. This is the internal motivation. This is the why. It's not just about what he does. It's about what it does for him.
This brings us to a more simplified formula that the source recommends for longer answers. If you can't remember that whole 4-part story arc, you can just use this basic 3-step structure. What, frequency, and why.
Right. Keep it simple. 1, what you enjoy. 2, how often you do it. And 3, why you like it.
Let's deconstruct the example from the source material. I enjoy drawing. I usually do it in the evenings, and it helps me express my creativity.
It's a perfect execution of the formula. I enjoy drawing. That's the what.
Simple enough.
I usually do it in the evenings. That's the frequency.
And that part is so good, isn't it? The frequency part. Because in the evenings, I can now picture you. I can see you sitting at a desk with a lamp on, sketching, while the world outside is dark.
It paints a picture. I like drawing is just data. I draw in the evenings. Creates an image in the listener's mind. It creates a scene.
Which is the whole key, isn't it? We're trying to paint pictures. We want them to see the little movie of our life.
Yes. And the final part of that sentence.
And it helps me express my creativity. That's the why.
The motivation. It's the complete package. It answers all the little questions the listener has in their head before they even have to ask them.
So let's zoom in even more on that third part of the formula, the why. The source material makes a really big point about using the vocabulary of feeling.
Yes. This is so often the missing piece for learners. They get really good at the nouns and the verbs, the activity. I play tennis, I read books. But native speakers almost always connect their hobbies to emotions.
We don't just do things. We do things to change the way we feel.
That's it exactly. We use our hobbies for emotional regulation. We're trying to fix something inside us or enhance something.
So let's break down some of the key vocabulary that the source highlights for this. The first one is relaxing.
A classic. It makes me feel calm. It helps me unwind. This is the antidote to a stressful life. It positions your hobby as a form of therapy.
Okay, what about rewarding? This one feels a bit more complex.
Rewarding is a very powerful word. It implies effort. It implies that the hobby might actually be difficult or not even fun in the moment.
Like running a marathon.
Exactly. Or learning a language or hiking a mountain. Your legs hurt, your brain hurts, you're sweating. But the feeling of pride you get after you've finished, that's the reward. So it turns a difficult hobby into a very positive experience.
That's a great point. You wouldn't say watching TV is rewarding. You'd say it's relaxing. But building a piece of furniture with your own hands, that's rewarding.
Exactly. It implies a sense of achievement.
And then there are others, like creative, challenging, fun, exciting.
These are like the flavor text for your personality. If you tell me I like rock climbing because it's really challenging, you're not just telling me about a sport. You're telling me that you are a person who values growth and overcoming obstacles.
You're revealing your core values through your choice of words.
You are. If you say, I like painting because it lets me be creative, you're telling me you value self-expression. It's a shortcut to understanding who you are.
The source also points out one very specific contextual phrase that's incredibly common. After a busy week.
Yes. It really helps me relax after a busy week.
Why is that little phrase worth analyzing? It almost sounds like a cliche.
It is a cliche, but it's a cliche that works as social glue. It taps into this universal cultural trope in many English-speaking societies, which is the struggle for work-life balance.
So it's a shared struggle.
It is. In Western culture, being busy is almost a status symbol. If you're not busy, what are you even doing with your life? So by framing your hobby as the relief, the sanctuary from that busyness, you are instantly bonding with the listener.
You're saying we're on the same team.
Yes. You're creating an us versus the world moment. Man, the grind is hard, work is crazy, but this hobby, this is my escape. And the other person immediately thinks, oh, I hear you. I need my yoga for the exact same reason. And boom, you've got a connection.
That's so true. Okay, so we've covered a lot of the good. We know how to expand. We know how to tell a story. We have the emotional vocabulary. Now, we have to enter the danger zone.
The common mistakes, the things to avoid.
The things that immediately flag you as a learner. The source identifies a couple of these errors that just scream, I am translating this directly from my native language.
The first one is the classic mistake that Liam points out in the source dialogue. I very like music.
Oh, I hear this all the time. It really is the hallmark of that intermediate plateau.
It is. And you can understand the logic, right? In so many other languages, French, Spanish, Mandarin, that structure works perfectly. Very means a lot. So very like should mean like a lot.
But in English, it hurts the ears. It's like hitting a speed bump on the highway. It just stops the flow of the conversation.
It does. So let's break down the simple grammar logic so we can just purge this from our systems forever. Why is it wrong?
Okay, what's the rule?
The rule is that very is an intensifier that modifies adjectives or adverbs. Something can be very hot or you can run very fast. But very cannot directly modify a verb. You can't very run, you can't very eat, and so you can't very like.
So what are the correct options? What's the fix?
You have two main choices. You can either move that intensity to the front of the verb with the word really, I really like music, or you can move it to the end of the sentence with very much, I like music very much.
And for a casual conversation, I really like is probably the safer, more natural bet, right?
Absolutely. I like music very much is perfectly grammatical, but it can sound a little bit formal, a little stiff. It's something you might write in an email. I really like is what people actually say.
Got it. Okay, danger zone mistake number 2. The article error. As in, I like to play the football.
Or play the tennis, play the chess.
This is a very specific rule just about sports and games, isn't it?
It is. In English, when we're talking about the activity of playing a sport or a game, we just drop the article. There's no the, it's just play football, play poker, play Monopoly.
But there have to be an exception because English is just full of exceptions.
Of course there is. Musical instruments. You play the guitar, you play the piano, you play the drums.
That is such a weird distinction. Why do we play the piano but we play basketball? It seems so random.
It is a bit random, but the general logic is that the instrument is seen as a specific physical object you are operating, whereas the sport is seen as the abstract activity itself. But honestly, you don't need to know the deep history. You just need to memorize the rule.
Okay, so the rule of thumb is sports and games, no the. Musical instruments, yes, the.
That's the rule. And it's one of those small fixes that has a huge impact on how natural you sound.
And that leads to the bigger point the source makes. What they call the tone check. These mistakes, they don't actually stop communication, do they?
Yeah.
If you say, I very like the football, I know exactly what you mean.
I understand you 100%. There's no confusion about the meaning.
What is?
But it instantly reminds my brain that I'm talking to a language learner. It puts up a tiny, almost subconscious barrier between us. My brain might switch into what's called foreigner talk mode.
Where you start speaking a little slower or using simpler words without even realizing it.
Exactly. And that limits the depth and speed of the conversation. But when you fix those small things, when you say, I'm really into football, that barrier just dissolves. I stop mentally auto-correcting your sentences and I just listen to what you're saying.
You're reducing the cognitive load for your conversation partner.
That's a great way to put it. You're making it easy and effortless for them to talk to you. And when it's easy to talk to someone, people want to talk to them more.
It's pure social strategy.
It is.
Which brings us all the way back to the ultimate goal here. Conversation survival skills. We're back at the tennis match. We've learned how to hit a great return shot with our expanded, detailed answer. But the match isn't over.
No, you have to keep the ball in play.
And the source talks about this crucial final step. They call it the U-turn.
This is so critical. You've just given your brilliant answer. You said, I'm really into cooking, especially Italian food. I try to make it whenever I get the chance because it's so relaxing. You've just crushed it.
You hit a beautiful forehand right to the corner of the court.
But if you stop there and just stare at them expectantly, you're just holding the ball again. You've stopped the game. You have to hit it back. You have to pivot.
And the phrases for this are so simple, right? It's not complicated. What about you?
What about you is the absolute classic. Or you could be more specific. Do you cook at all?
And this is where it gets really good.
Yeah.
The source suggests you can ask follow-up questions based on the very same structure we just learned. This is how you become a truly great conversationalist.
Yes. You use the formula in reverse. If they say, yeah, I enjoy painting, don't just say, oh, cool. That's another conversation killer.
Right. Instead, you can ask about the origin.
Oh, painting. That's so cool. How did you get into that? That question. How did you get into that is magic. It's a direct invitation for them to tell you their burned pasta story.
You're inviting them to share their narrative. Then you can ask about the frequency.
Wow. Do you paint often? Or is it hard to find time for it these days?
And, of course, ask about the why.
What do you like about it? Or do you find it relaxing?
That question, how did you get into that, is just so powerful because everybody loves to talk about themselves, but they need permission. They need an invitation.
It invites them to be the storyteller. And once you have two people sharing their stories, their little narratives, you're not just practicing English anymore.
No, you're making a friend. You're building a real connection.
And that is the whole point. That is the magic. We don't learn languages to pass exams. We learn them to connect with other human beings.
So let's try to synthesize all of this. We have covered so much ground. We started with the robot.
I like music, the basic brick.
The brick wall, the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
And we have shown how to transform that robot into a genuine storyteller.
I'm really into hip-hop. I listen to it whenever I get the chance because it's just so energetic.
The difference is it's night and day. One of those answers shuts a door, and the other one opens a window into your personality.
It allows a listener to actually see inside.
So the tennis challenge for everyone listening today is pretty simple. Your hobbies are not just facts to list on a resume. They are the texture of who you are. And language is just the tool you use to show people that texture.
So don't be afraid to show it. Don't be afraid to be specific. And please, don't be afraid to admit that you once burned the pasta.
And here's a final provocative thought to leave you with. I want you to ask yourself right now, wherever you are listening to this, if someone walked up to you this second and asked you what you are really into, would you have a burned pasta story ready to tell?
Do you have that little anecdote, that moment of failure or struggle that makes your passion feel real and human?
If you don't, find one. Think about it. Mine your life for that story. Translate it into English and practice telling it. Because that little story, that is your ticket to real connection.
It's the difference between just being a speaker of a language and being a true communicator.
Now that you know exactly how to start a conversation and keep it going with your amazing hobbies, you need to know how to end it without things getting awkward. We have a deep dive coming up on the art of the graceful exit. You are not going to want to miss that, so make sure you keep watching.
We'll see you then.